Family. Let's rise for the Moorish American prayer. I'm going to let the prayer be led off by Sister Monique. Islam,
Allah,
Allah,
Father of the universe,
Father of the universe,
Father of love,
Father of love,
truth,
truth,
peace,
peace,
freedom,
and justice.
Allah is my protector,
Allah is my protector,
my
my
guide,
guide,
salvation,
my salvation,
by night
and by day,
and by day.
Through His holy prophet, Drew Ali. Amen. Islam family, once again, first I rise, I give praise, all praises to Allah, the grand architect. I give honors to the illustrious prophet, Noble Drew Ali. I give honors to all that he's brought to us to save us, to help us to save ourselves. I give honors to each and every one of you. I give honors to all Moors that are online. I give honors to all that pertain to Islam. Peace. Salvation, Allah, unity. Just hold up. Let me get my glasses. My eyes is what they used to be. I want to make sure that as I read, I am reading the right stuff and not making it up as I go along. Yeah, can somebody please mufti the door? Salvation, Allah, unity. The Moorish Science Temple of America, the Divine Constitution and Bylaws. Act 1, the Grand Sheikh and the Chairman of the Moorish Science Temple is empowered to make law and enforce laws with the assistance of the Prophet and the Grand Body of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Act 2, all meetings ought to be open and closed promptly according to the Circle 7, love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Friday is our holy day of rest because it was on the Friday the first man was formed into flesh. It was on the Friday the first man departed out of flesh and ascended to his Father God Allah. For that cause, Friday is a holy day for all Muslims all over the world. Islam. Act 3, love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice must be proclaimed and practiced by all members of the Moorish Science Temple of America. No member is to put in danger or to accuse falsely his brother or sister on any occasion that may harm his brother or sister. Why? Because Allah is what? Allah is love. Act 4, all members must preserve these holy and divine laws, and all members must obey the laws of the government. Because by being a Moorish American, you are part and parcel of this government and must what? Live the life accordingly. Act 5, the disorganization of the Moorish Science Temple of America is not to cause any confusion or to overthrow the laws and constitution of this said government, but what? To obey hereby. Act 6, with us, all members must proclaim their nationality, and we are teaching our people their nationality and their divine creed, that they may know that they are a part and parcel of this said government, and know that they are not Negroes, colored folks, black people, or Ethiopians, because these names were what? Given to slaves by slaveholders in what? 1779. And lasted until what? 1865, during the time of slavery. But this is a new era of time now. And all men must proclaim their free national name to be recognized by the government in which they live and the nations of what? The earth. This is the reason why Allah, the great God of the universe, ordained Noble Drew Ali the prophet to redeem his people from their sinful ways. The Moorish Americans are the descendants of the ancient Moabites who inhabited the northwestern and southwestern shores of what? Africa. Acts 11. All members must promptly attend their meetings and become a part and parcel of all uplifting acts of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Members must pay their dues, keep in line with all necessities of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Then you're entitled to the name of what? Faithful. Husband, you must support your wife and children. Wife, you must obey your husband, take care of your children, and look after the duties of your household. Sons and daughters must obey father and mother and be industrious and become a part of the uplifting of fallen humanity. All Moorish Americans must keep their hearts and minds pure with love and their bodies pure with water, and their bodies rather clean with water. This divine covenant is from your holy prophet, Noble Drew Ali, through the guidance of his father God, Allah. Islam. I'm going to read this little short passage, and as I stated before, Brother Omari will come after me and do the 101s. Savior of humanity. In this electrified age, men are racing into this life without complete knowledge of where they are going or what the end will be. When riches seem to be their only pursuit, to be obtained anyway at any cost. What does it profit one to gain the world and do what? Lose your eternal soul. When selfishness, avarice, greed, and lust dominate their very being. When humanity in general is left at the mercy of those who have no mercy in them. And these are the days that we are currently in. It is truly wonderful and astounding to see one come into this mad human drama for the sole purpose of saving humanity, losing all sight on those things worldly and yielding absolutely to a cause higher than has ever yet been attained. This picture is the likeness of Prophet Noble Drew Ali, who is serving humanity. So come as he does with coming as he does with a message for the nations in somewhat the same manner as did Jesus, Muhammad, Buddha, Confucius, and other prophets of their day. Only the teachings of this prophet's day differ from the ills of the days of the past, and yet the remedy for the ills of today is about the same as the remedies for the days of the past. So all turning about the pivot, love for humanity, peace. I'm going to leave it there. There's a lot more, but I'll continue that in the next segment. So right now, Brother Lakamari, could you please come up and give the Moorish American lessons for Moorish American children? Thank you.
Islam, Moors. First I rise, giving perfect praise to the great architect of the universe, Father God Allah. Give honors to his prophet, Noble Drew Ali. I give honors to Temple number 10. And I want to give honors to all members in attendance today. Islam. Gratitude. I'm going to go into Quran questions for Moorish children. 101s. Also, family, this is the question and answer period. So if there's any questions pertaining to the 101s, if you want to build on the 101s, please raise your hand and we can do so. Number 1, who made you?
Allah.
Number 2, who is Allah?
Allah is the Father of this universe.
3, can we see him?
No.
4, where's the nearest place we can meet him?
In heart.
5, who is Noble Drew Ali?
Allah's prophet.
6, what is a prophet?
Prophet of Allah manifested in the flesh.
7, what is the duty of a prophet?
Save the nation from the wrath of Allah.
8, who is the founder of the Moorish Science Temple of America?
Noble Drew Ali.
9, what year was the Moorish Science Temple of America founded?
1913 AD.
10, where?
Newark, New Jersey.
11, where was Noble Drew Ali born?
State of North Carolina, 1886.
12, what is his nationality?
Moorish American.
13, what is your nationality?
Moorish American.
14, why are we Moorish Americans?
Because we are
Because we are
descendants of
descendants of
Moroccans
Moroccans
and born in America.
15, for what purpose was the Moorish Science Temple of America founded?
For the uplifting of fallen humanity.
16, how did the prophet begin to uplift the Moorish American?
By teaching them to be themselves.
17, what is our religion?
Islam.
18, is that a new or old time religion?
Old time religion.
19, what kind of flag is the Moorish?
It's a red flag with a 5-pointed green star in the center.
20, what do the 5 points represent?
Love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice.
21, how old is our flag?
It is over 50,000 years old.
22, which is our holy day?
Friday.
23, why?
Because Friday is man formed in flesh, and Friday man
And
departed
on
out of
Friday,
flesh.
when he departed out of flesh.
24, who is Jesus?
He was a prophet of Allah.
25, where was he born?
In Bethlehem
Bethlehem
of
of
Judah,
in the house of David.
26, who were his father and mother?
Joseph and Mary.
27, will you give in brief the line genealogy through which Jesus came?
Some of the great fathers through which Jesus came are Abraham, Boaz, Ruth, Jesse, King David, Solomon, Hezekiah, and Joseph by Mary.
28, why did Allah send Jesus to this earth?
To save the Israelites from the iron and oppression of the Palestinian nation of Europe, who were governing a portion of Palestine at that time.
29, how long has that been?
About 2,000 years.
30, what was the nationality of Ruth?
Ruth was a Moabite.
31, what is the modern name for Moabites?
Morocco.
32, what is the Moroccan Empire?
Northwest Mexico.
33, what is the modern name for Mexico?
Africa.
34, what is the title given to our ruler in Morocco?
Sultan.
35, where do we get the name Jesus?
From the east.
36, what does the name Jesus mean?
Jesus means justice.
37, did the angel give to the child that was called Jesus a holy name?
Yes, but it cannot be used by those who are slaves to sin.
38, what is an angel?
The angel is the thought of Allah manifested in the human flesh.
39, what are angels used for?
To carry messages to the four corners of the world to all nations.
40, what is our prophet to us?
He's an angel of Allah who was sent to bring us the everlasting gospel of Allah.
41, what is the everlasting gospel?
It is the saving power that comes from Allah through his prophet.
42, what is the covenant of the great God Allah?
Honor thy father and thy mother, that the days you belong on the earthland, which the Lord thy God Allah has given thee.
43, at what age did Jesus begin to teach?
At the age of 12,
44, where did he teach?
India, Africa, and Europe.
45, how long did he teach?
18 years.
46, what did Jesus say will make you free?
Truth.
47, what is truth?
Truth is art.
48, what is art?
Art is Allah.
49, can truth change?
No, cannot change or pass away.
50, what other name do we give truth?
Holy breath.
51, what have you to say about holy breath?
Always to say, free, wise, and evermore to be. Amen.
52, at what place on earth was the physical part of man formed?
In the Garden of Eden.
53, where's the Garden of Eden?
In the land of Canaan,
in the city of Mecca.
54, what is the modern name for the Garden of Eden?
Mecca.
55, what is the name of the first physical man?
His name cannot be used only by the executive rulers of the AC, of MST, of A.
56, what are the words of the AC of the MST of A?
Chamber of Moorish Science Temple of America, third heaven.
57, who were Adam and Eve?
They are the mothers and fathers of the human family, Asiatics and Muslims.
58, where did they go?
Went to Asia.
59, what is the modern name given to those children?
Asiatic.
60, Who is guarding the holy city of Mecca today to keep unbelievers away?
Angels.
61. What is the modern name for those angels?
Asiatics.
62. What is the shade of their skin?
Olive.
63. Are the Moorish Americans any relation to those angels?
Yes. Have the same father and mother.
64. Give 5 names that are given to the descendants of Adam and Eve.
Lucifer, Satan, devil, dragon, beast.
65. What is the devil sometimes called?
Lower self.
All right. So get a question for 64. Give 5 names that are given to the descendants of Adam and Eve. Lucifer, Satan, devil, dragon, and beast. And 65 is, what is the devil sometimes called?
The lower self.
So is Lucifer, Satan, devil, dragon, and beast are all traits of what?
The lower self.
Islam. 66. How many selves are there?
2.
67. Name them.
Higher self and lower self.
68. What people represent the higher self?
The angels that protect the holy city of Mecca.
And you know, one clue, which again, I say every time I read this, I gain something new. So, you know, 64, and what we just said about 64 and 65 is right, because 65 is what is the devil sometimes called? The lower self. How many selves are there? 2 selves. And then 68, and that's why you know the prophet put so much energy into how he worded things to help us comprehend. So 68 says what people represent the higher self. So what I'm saying is what people, and then 69 again says what people. So he's trying to let you know that he's talking about the same person. Islam, you gotta pay attention. Islam.
If I may add on, I already, get the praise and honors. Not only that, it also tells you Lucifer, Satan, devil, dragon, beast. Those 5 traits are in both, are in one person. So like once you conquer those 5 inside, then your higher self like abides and you become truth. You know what I mean? I don't want to really spill the beans on the whole entire, but I'm just saying this is what a lot of Moors miss when they say Lucifer, Satan, devil, dragon, and beast. That's 5 different traits of the selves. You know what I'm saying? So, and we all have it inside of us. But who is to protect that holy city which is within oneself, the higher self, and the lower self. Peace.
And just to add on to that is that from the higher self perspective, you have love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, which is the 5 points of man when he's in higher self. And his lower self is the Lucifer, Satan, the dragon, and beast. But those are all still different attributes of the lower self. And the 5 points of the flag represents attributes of the higher self.
The higher self, Islam.
69. What people represent the lower self?
The holy city and those who accept their teachings.
I got a question. Was the holy city, is that a place?
No.
Question to the floor.
Well, no. The holy city is within oneself, like the kingdom of heaven is within. The kingdom, is all mine. You know what I'm saying? Because mastermind can trace as back as far back as the mind can remember. So the holy city represents the city within one's own temple.
Everyone understands that?
Islam.
All that I have to say is Lord.
Because I only say that because he's talking about a physical place.
Right.
But again, just dealing with being more scientists, we have to understand there's a duality to a lot of the literature that we read, where it can be referenced as a physical place, but it's really meaning internal. Islam. 70. What is the higher self?
The higher self, other virtues, harmonies of life. With justice, mercy, love, and right.
71. Can the higher self pass away?
No.
72. Why?
Because it's Allah and man.
73. What does the lower self breed?
Hatred, slander, lewdness, murder, death, and everything that harms.
74. What did the higher self say to the lower self at one time when he met him?
Where are you going, Satan?
75. What was the answer that the lower self gave to the higher self?
I am going to and fro the earth, seeking whom I may devour.
Islam. 76. Has he finished his task of devouring?
Yes.
77. When was his time declared out?
When he nailed Jesus to the cross.
78. What were the last words Jesus uttered?
It is finished.
79. What did he have reference to?
He has reference to the
End of Satan.
80. Did Jesus say that he would return to conquer him?
Yes.
81. What is the name of the person into whom Jesus was first reincarnated?
Prophet Muhammad the Conqueror.
82. Was Satan to be bound in?
Satan was to be bound in part.
83. When was the head of Satan taken off?
1453.
84. By whom?
By Muhammad.
85. Name some of the marks that were put upon the Moors of the Northwest by the European nations in 1774.
Negro, black, colored, and Ethiopian.
86. Negro.
Negro, a name given to a river in West
Africa,
Africa,
because Moors could contain black water.
87. What is meant by the word black?
Black, according to science, means death.
88. What does the word colored mean?
Color means anything that is painted, stained, varnished, or dyed.
89. What does Ethiopia mean?
Ethiopia means something divided.
90. Can a man be Negro, black, colored, or Ethiopian?
No,
91. Why?
because a man is made in the likeness and the likeness of Allah.
92. What title does Satan give himself?
God.
93. Will you define the word white?
White means purity, God.
94. To whom do we refer at times as being the great God?
Allah.
95. Is the devil made in the image and likeness of Allah?
No,
He is
the shadow of ourselves in the shadow place.
96. Who made the devil?
Elohim.
97. Who is Elohim?
Elohim is the spirit that created everything that was, is, and evermore will be.
The Son. 98. What is Elohim sometimes called?
7
Eyes
eyes
of Allah.
99. How many days are in a circle?
7 days.
100. How many days are in a creation?
7 days.
101. According to science, how many days are in a year?
7 days.
Islam. Any questions about the 101s? Anything that we went over? Anything anyone want to add? Okay, if not, I'll just finish my last demonstration in the Holy Quran, chapter 12.
Mufti.
All right, Islam family. So chapter 12, the Holy Morris Quran. Jesus teaches the common people at a spring, tells them how to obtain eternal happiness. Are you ready to begin? In silent meditation, Jesus sat beside a flowing spring. It was a holy day, and many people of the servant caste were near the place. And Jesus saw hard-drawn lines of toil on every brow and every hand. There was no look of joy in any face, Not one of the group could think of anything but toil. And Jesus spoke to one and said, why are you all so sad? Have you have no happiness in life? The man replied, we scarcely know the meaning of that word. We toil to live and hope for nothing else but toil, and bless the day when we can cease our toil and lay down and rest in Buddha's city of the dead. And Jesus' heart was stirred with pity and with love for these poor toilers, and he said, toil should not make a person sad. Men should be happiest when they toil. When hope and love are back of toil, then all life is filled with joy and peace, and this is heaven. Do you not know that such a heaven is for you? So I just want to build. I know it's right where we left off the last time I went into chapter 12. But why is Jesus making reference to why we should be happiest when we toil? To the most of us coming outside of Morris Science Temple, if someone tell you that you should be happy to toil, we would probably think they were slightly crazy. Because let's remove, in layman's terms, let's remove toil if we're not really comprehending what it is, but let's say struggle. So he's saying man should be happiest during time of struggle. And it took me a while to figure it out, but it's true. And why? It's not.
I was waiting to see if anybody else wanted to take
Oh.
that.
Brother
I
Modell.
already raised my hands. I'll defer.
Thank you.
Our praise is due to Allah. Giving honor to Noble Drew Ali, Prophet Noble Drew Ali, to Grand Sheikh, Grand Sheikhs, and to all that pertains to Islam.
Islam.
I would think that he would say that because we grow in adversities. That's basically what I would say. I think we grow when we have adversities.
Okay, I'll accept that. Brother Mark.
Okay.
I got you next to you. I got you.
It's beautiful. Honor, praise to Allah, Prophet, Grand Sheikh, honorable members, and honor that. I think that's making reference to also in the material it says that man must go through his the periods when like his foes.
Mm-hmm.
So that's also part of your foes, and that's gaining you your experiences so that you can you build off of those challenges. And it's not necessarily due to say wherever you're coming from, certain things is looked upon as a struggle, but it's not necessarily a struggle. It's an experience that's used for an upliftment within oneself. So our struggle with with our union or with our individual thing, but it's used for upliftment.
I'll accept that. Sheikh Shati.
What I was going to say is this I know through experience and from hearing the lesson. It's telling them to don't be hard on yourself, even in spite of what you're going through. This is more so the time to be grateful and to show gratitude. This is where it takes me. It takes me to gratitude, and it takes me to like if nothing else, uplift yourself, find the happiness within, in spite of what you may be going through, like on the workplace or what you be going through in life. These are the things that, if I may add on what Brother Mark was saying, these are the things that actually builds your character.
Mm-hmm.
See, everybody is happy when things is going great for them. So how do you have that same fight? Do you have that same happiness and gust and zeal when things aren't going right for you? That's the time that you hold your head up. I'm like even further. So that's where it takes me at.
Fine, go.
Islam. Rising, I give all praises to Allah, the Father of the universe. Give honors to Noble Drew Ali, his prophet, honors to the Harbinger, Marcus Winside Garvey. Give honors to the Grand Sheik, Sheik Nika, all the sheiks, and all the sheikesses.
Islam.
Honest
Into Islam.
to you.
Islam.
So,
I was getting from it is that Noble Drew Ali or Jesus was saying that when you toiling, that it make you feel like you're slaving to get a benefit from it. But instead of thinking of you toiling or slaving to get and working hard to get a benefit from it, think of it as there's nowhere that you could go. If you think you're toiling and you're going to get a benefit from it, it's not a place where you could go and get this, or keep your mind straight to the point where, like, okay, I'm doing this hard work, but I'm doing it for a reason, and it's going to benefit me or my family or my children or something like that. To keep that in mind, that you work harder to make that manifest, instead of thinking that you're struggling in the situation that you're going through.
Islam. Brother Terrence, you have the last one on this ayat.
It says when it's back, hope and love. So while you're toiling, struggling, if you have an appreciation just for living, that should drive you past the present state. That's my doctrine. If you focus on that, that should be the motivational drive to get you through. So
Islam. I like everybody's answer. It's beautiful. It's definitely it's cohesive to what the prophet is saying, and I'll just put my last add on to it. Of my perspective of when I read this is when they told you, when hope and love are back and told you, then life is filled with joy and peace, and this is heaven. So what he's saying is heaven is internally. It's a mind state. So the reason why men should be happiest when they told you is because if you go through a situation and you're not aware of the repercussion, then you remain to toil you and you never learn. But if you go through a situation and you're toiling, but then you grow, like Mark said, through the experience that you've gained after this toil of a situation, then man should be happy, really, because man is here to gain experience. And by gaining experience, you're learning. So like what Sheikh Shatik said, those who are always, if life is always going good for you and there's no lessons for you to learn, then are you really happy? That's the polarity of it. Are you really happy? Because what did you gain? What did you learn? It's like a simple science of changing a car tire. If the tire was flat, you could be upset, but the toil you're gonna double over the toil very fast. Why? Because now man is built with knowledge on how to change a tire. But now if a tire goes flat and you have no knowledge of how to change it, then there's no happiness. Right? Now go through that, you may learn how to change a tire, and then when it happens again, you've learned. And that's why man is here to gain experience. But either way, toil is once you toil through a situation, once you become happy because then you're gaining the awareness of what you didn't know or what you didn't have. Islam. 7, the men replied, of heaven we have heard, but then it is too far away, and we must live so many lives before we can reach that place. And Jesus said, my brother, man, your thoughts are wrong. Your heaven is not far away, and it is not a place of meets and bounds. It is not a country to be reached. It is a state of mind. Allah never made a heaven for man. He never made a hell. We are creators, and we make our own. Now cease to seek for heaven in the sky. Just open up the windows of thy hearts, and like a flood of lights, a heaven will come and bring a boundless joy. Then toil will be no cruel task. And that's why I just want to add on what Brother Terrence was saying. If you focus, and this also is internally, so perspective and perception is everything. So how you perceive things to be is what they will be. But what he's saying, if your hearts is back with love, you will receive the treasures of Allah. But if you never open your hearts up with love to even comprehend why you're toiling, then you'll never understand what Allah is trying to give to you. The people were amazed and gathered close to hear this strange young master speak, imploring him to tell more about the Father God Allah, about the heaven that men can make on earth, about the boundlessness joy. And Jesus spoke a parable. He said, a certain man possessed a field. The soil was hard and poor. By constant toil, he scarcely could provide enough of his food to keep his family from want. One day, a miner who could see beneath the soil and passing on his way saw this poor man and his unfruitful field. He called the weary toiler. He said, my brother, do you not know that just below the surface of your barren field, rich treasures lie concealed? And I want to stop there. They said, the surface of your barren field, rich treasures lie concealed. So he, now again, that's what I said, and going back to the earlier of the 101s. What is he referencing to your barren field? Shikshati.
There are several things he's making reference to. Your trials and your tribulations is your barren field.
Mm-hmm.
You know, lies inside you is the keys to all of your like inner sanctuaries, right? Inner riches. I'm saying it's inside you. It's very deep down. So like if you're bogged down with I'm going through this, can pay my rent, can do this. But if you only stop to just search yourself inside, you can find the answers. So yes, the goal is lying like in your barren field is your situation.
Brother Terrence? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Son. He called this weary tiller, 17. You plow and sow and reap in a scanty way, and day by day you tread upon a mine of gold and precious stones. So that's exactly kind of what Brother Terrence just said and what Shatik just mentioned about you can complain about your issues and your toil, but if you open up your heart to the gates of love, naturally it'll flow and you will comprehend of one, why you're toiling, and two, how to fix it.
And you can right, exactly.
And you'll be appreciative after the fact of understanding what the whole toil was about.
Absolutely.
This wealth lies not upon the surface of the ground, but if you will dig away the rocky soil, which is dig away the negative thoughts in your mind, and delve deep into the earth, your mind, you will need no longer till the soil for naught. The man believed, the miner surely knows, and I will find the treasures hidden in my field. The treasures hidden in my field, in everyone's field. And then he dug away the rocky soil, and deep down in the earth, he found a mine of gold. I'm sorry, I paused, but that just stumbled to me. The 101s is, what did the lower self say to the higher self when he met him?
I'm going to and for the earth, seeking my way.
And Jesus said, the sons of men are toiling hard on the desert plains, and the burning sands and the rocky soils are doing what their fathers did not dreaming they can do aught else.
That's right.
Behold, a master comes and tells them of a hidden wealth, that underneath the rocky soils of carnal things and treasures that no man can count. That in the heart of the richest gems abound, that he who wills may open the door and find them all. And then the people said, make known to us the way that we find the wealth that lies within the heart. And Jesus opened up the way. The toilers saw another side of life, and toil became a joy. So the toilers said they saw another side of life, but like I said, he shifted their perspective on how to deal with life.
Absolutely. If I may,
Islam.
that's what Act 6 did with the Asiatics. So
Islam.
with us, all members must proclaim their nationality, and we are teaching our people their nationality and their divine creed. Those are the hidden treasures. Is your divine creed, and the ultimate is your nationality. So therein lies your riches.
Islam.
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 So,
Brother Terrence.
It's like going to the wilderness, self-examination, and then you really find out what's working God in his head.
Islam.
Yes,
Did Jesus go into the wilderness?
he did.
Islam. Any other questions? Bills on the floor? That concludes my bill. Thank you, family.
so thank you.
Islam. Next. Bring Sheikh Shatik back up to the podium.
Thank you, Brother Omari. That was a very enlightening lesson, my brother. Appreciate it. At this time, I would like to bring up about the Grand Sheikh of the temple. At this time, Lord Nichao Bey, and he will take us further into our knowledgeable journeys.
Islam, noble ones. Rise in the name of Allah, the Almighty. Giving honors to our noble prophet, Drew Ali. Giving honors to all faithful Moors, true American citizens. Giving honors to all other American citizens. Islam. Islam. So I'm going to start with Act 4 of the Divine Constitution and Bylaws. So we repeatedly say act. I just said Act 4. Act 4, Act 1, or whatever act that we might say. Can someone just give me a brief definition of what act means? Yes, sir.
It means your actions. Each one has a different vibe. Each one has a different vibratory rate. So the Act 1 has this vibratory rate, and which you should conform to. Act 2 has its vibratory rate, in which you should conform. It's speaking about your constitutional actions.
All right, Islam. Does anyone else have a different drawing on the word act? Islam, Brother Fine, go. Now, pardon yourself, now we are.
Oh. First, I giving praises to the most highest of the highest, divine living source of life. We refer to as Allah. Honors to his noble and divine prophet. Honors to all Grand Sheiks. Honors to the Grand Sheik of Temple Number 10. Honors to the Sheikh Shatik.
Honors to you.
Honors to the Sheikhs. Honors to all members in attendance. Honors to everything pertaining to Islam. And I'm gonna read this act real quick, and I also wanted to add something dealing with the lesson that the brother Omari presented. Act is a noun, and it's something that is done, a law made by a group of legislator, one of the main division of a play or opera. It is also known as a deed, an action, a statute. It is also a pretense, and that's about it. It's also a verb too, so it's dealing with the taking the action, like the other just mentioned. So,
Islam, did everyone hear that?
Yes.
Can you read the first definition again, please?
something that is done.
No, keep going.
A law made by a group of legislators. Legislators.
Mm-hmm.
One of the main division of a play or opera. The synonyms are deed, action, statute, pretense.
All right, Islam. That's good enough. Islam. Now you want to go to part
Yes.
2? Islam.
So brother was just building on the toiling, and the toiling, what I got from it is that the prophet Justice, Yahshua Justice Emmanuel Bey, he was trying to show that if we're toiling, we're not supposed to just toil on the surface, and that surface is just dealing like with our daily, like normal everything that we do every day, either we go to work or we deal with our family.
Mhm.
And he's saying that there's more to just toiling on our daily lives, dealing with just mundane stuff.
Mhm.
That there is a divine salvation also. So instead of us toiling for earthly salvation, we need to toil for a divine salvation also. So he's letting them know that there's hidden treasures within, meaning there's more seeking of like salvation from not just a surface where you just go to work, do your daily tasks, dealing with your family, but you need to search within yourself as who you are and where you go after this surface or after this life in the physical.
Islam.
That's what I want to say.
Islam.
Islam.
All right, Islam. So back to the word act. What I want to make clear to all of us is the importance of the divine constitution and bylaws. I want us to understand what it really represents. Because most people hear the word Moorish Science Temple of America and immediately the first assumption is a religious organization. And any statesman or lawman or woman, once you get into the doctrines of the organization, you will see a lot of things that really only pertain to law and not just what you call religious organization. All right. So we have to learn how to read in between the lines. And I'm just talking to us plurally at this point. But a lot of what's not said directly, you can find within the literature if you read it that way with an open mind. And like the prophet said that he had to go around his elbow to get to his thumb, which means that everything is not going to be straight and direct, even within what you're reading, because of certain conditions before and even today. A prophet is also what they call a foreteller. And a foreteller is one who sees the future and understands the future. So what a prophet or a foreteller, I'm going to take the word prophet out because sometimes we really don't understand what a prophet is. But for this sake of conversation, I'm going to use the word foreteller now. So a foreteller, whatever a foreteller does in the present is really pertaining to the future. Like you hear the term, anybody heard the term Nostradamus, which I know you did.
Yeah.
You know, but they give a lot of credit to these type of people, which they do deserve it. But when it comes to a true prophet, people don't really recognize what a true prophet is because the prophet is more stuck up under the classification of religion. So people don't look at the word prophet from a scientific perspective. So it loses its place. So a lot of the work the prophet was doing, Prophet Noble Ali I'm speaking about, the work that he did was really for the young and yet born, like he said. So the word act is something, a law, a statute, rules, regulations that is enacted by a legislator or legislative. So you have 3 branches of government. Everybody familiar with that? All right. So one of the branches of government is legislative. And the job of legislation is what? To make law. All right. So the term act is a legislative term. Correct? So when you hear the words Act 1 through Act 7, those who know law knows that those are not just religious codes of ethics. Those are laws. Islam. And legislation is also what's the legislative branch of the United States of America's government? Islam.
I mean, what does it consist of?
No, what is it called? What's another name for it?
Congress.
Congress. So Congress' job is to make law. That's the branch of government, or what you call a separation powers. They were sectioned off to deal with lawmaking. So we have to be familiar with it because, yeah, there's a lot of laws we disagree with out here. But the way to address the laws we disagree with is you have to address who makes the laws. And that's your legislative branch of government, i.e. Congress, which is found in what act in the Constitution? Yes, you're repeating it. What act is it? So, yes, absolutely. It's the first law. Absolutely. There can't be any other laws until it's got to be first. Everything else hangs upon that. It's the organic branch and the only branch that sets the stage for the rest of the branches, positions, powers, or other laws to follow. So that's why it's first. So now we cross-reference that into our Constitution. Where is Congress mentioned in Moorish Science Temple's Constitution? Act 1, which is the first law again. So if you go any other nation in the world, then you'll see that that will be consistent. So we're looking at what we call standards now. So the Constitution of the Moorish Science Temple of America is also the Constitution for the Moorish American, because the Moorish Science Temple of America is referred to as the organization of the nation. And the nation is only Moorish American pertaining to us. That's the nationality. What's very important about this is that we hold an obligation not to just observe it, but this is part of your recourse of law. Meaning that you have a nation, you have to have a constitution if you are a legitimate nation. This is part of your recourse on how you have to defend you as an individual and your nation is by first acknowledging your constitution and making others acknowledge your constitution. So Act 4 of the Divine Constitution says all members must preserve these holy and divine laws, and all members must obey the laws of the government. Now, I'm going to just break that down for a second. Self-explanatory, but just understanding it. All members must preserve these holy and divine laws. That deals with the laws of nature, or what we refer to as natural law. So not just holy laws. If somebody hear the word holy again, and we might just think religion. Oh, that's talking about religion. That's not what holy means. It's used in religious Yes, but that's not just what it's secluded to mean. So all members must preserve these holy and divine laws. Divine laws, again, pertains to holy laws, which also pertain to what? Natural laws. Some might even use the term universal law. So that's just also termed moral laws. So that deals with morality and your moral obligation. So everybody, regardless of anyone's nationality, everybody should observe natural, moral, divine laws. That's regardless, that's worldwide. So it's universal, meaning that regardless of what nation or what geographical area you're born in, that's everybody's law. That don't need doctrine, that don't need name. Everyone's obligated to that constitution, is what Act 4 is saying in the first paragraph. And then it says, and all members must obey the laws of the government. So there's a different vibration. You spoke about the word vibration. You must preserve the holy and divine law. That you must preserve. That's one statement. Then he said, and then you must obey the laws of the government. He didn't say preserve the laws of the government. He said you must obey the laws of the government. Why? And he stipulated that because by being a Moorish American, you are a part and parcel of the government. That's why you must obey it, because you are a part and parcel of it. And you must live the life accordingly. According to what? According to both. So it gives a different vibration when you hear it. But for those who understand the law and know the law, to a lawman, that means a whole lot. That's a mouthful. Because the first part of it is again goes without saying. But now, how do you live the life accordingly, according to being Moorish American? That takes other acts, rules, and regulations and codes to express how do you live the life according to being a Moorish American. That needs further explanation, because now we're talking about physical behavior. Now we're talking about civic or social laws, which that is going to vary according to different cultures and different lands. That's where this conversation gets more importantly, because we are learning how to live the life accordingly. That's why we're here. We are in the institution referred to as the Moorish Science Temple to learn really how to live the life according to being who we say we are. You can't declare yourself as being a Moorish American without knowing what the expectations of being a Moorish American is. It has to be defined. The nation has to be defined. That's why it says that we have to go back to the state of mind of our forefathers, because that's how we become one or become in tune with the definition of Moorish American. We don't define Moorish American in our present state. Moorish American was already defined before we became reconscious of that. So now we have to live up to the expectations of the definition. Everybody follow me? So by being a Moorish American, you are a part and parcel of the government. Now, what government is he making reference to? This is open to the floor. Jamila, you started to speak. In this conversation, the government. I'm just asking what government? You rest on that? All right, Islam. Flying Go, you was next.
Islam. He meant this government. Moorish American government.
The Moorish American government? Explain. How did you come up with that conclusion?
The government.
Yes.
This.
Hmm?
When he said the government,
When you say this government, this is not specific. So I'm just explaining what government is he making reference to.
Moorish American government.
Okay, so explain to me how you coming up with that perception.
Before, when we spoke on this before, when you mentioned this government. Yeah. If I'm not mistaken, when he said a part and parcel of this government, it meant United States of America.
So again, let's reread it, right? Don't go by what I said any other time or what anybody else said. Just what we want to do is if we hand this, say we handed this Constitution to a legislative lawmaker, judge, attorney, whoever, somebody neutral, and they read this with a mind of law, what are they going to pull from that statement? What does that say to them? So I'm going to say it again. By being a Moorish American, you are a part and parcel of the government and must live the life accordingly. So based off that, what is someone going to say? Don't go by what I said before. Go by what do you get from that statement?
They're going to want to know what government you're talking about.
Yes, but and that's why I'm asking the floor, and now I'm asking you only because you said it, where I'm showing you that you can't leave things unattended like that when you're dealing with something that counts. You got to really explain what you're talking about with clearness and power, because they're going by, this is your law, this is your constitution, and when it comes to that statement, that's your connection to government. So you have to be clear on that position, on your position, and on what U.S.A. was making reference to. You have to be clear on that. I'm gonna just go around. Islam, sis. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, when I first read that statement,
Mm-hmm.
I too went in depth a little bit with it because I wanted clarity
Mm-hmm.
that where we are today being recognized
Mm-hmm.
by the current government. Why is it almost like we're under the radar, not being recognized by the current government? So when I read that statement,
Mm-hmm.
it said of this said government,
Yes.
I went back into looking at the date of that statement of that oration, and it appears as though at that time that current government was acknowledging
Mm-hmm.
the Moorish Science of America's governmental body at that time. So with him, I believe, expressing that we are part and parcel of this said government, that it was the current government at that time, which had been put on notice,
Mm-hmm.
recognized the governmental body of the Moorish Science.
Mm-hmm. Islam.
That's all.
Islam. Now everything this we hearing from everybody, make a mental note of that, because it all counts, and we're going to come back and clear this up, because there is confusion about these statements. So my job What I'm doing now is just showing us how to read our own Constitution and how to defend our Constitution. Because sometimes, and a lot of times, we put more emphasis into the United States of America's Constitution, and we don't put enough emphasis on our own Constitution. And it's mainly from my observation is because we don't understand it. Islam. I'm gonna go to Brother Terrence next.
Now, as to free national name of the government of the United States of America. So again, part and parcel to this said government, United States of America. Now, more American back to other constitutions. That's the nation.
Islam. No, yeah.
Yeah, according to Act 4, it's basically stating that we are part and parcel of the Free National Republic, which is guaranteed by the United States of America Constitution, the same Article 4, Section 4, speaking that the United States shall guarantee every state in the Union a Republican form of government. So the Moorish Science Temple was established under that Republican form as a free state for the Moors. Islam.
All right. Islam. Someone else had their hand up? Islam on that. And then Bondulary next.
I give praises to Allah, High Supreme Honest and Noble Drew Ali, all members here.
Islam to you.
I wanted to say the United States of America because our Constitution and bylaws is in synchronicity with the Supreme Lords of the land, the United States Constitution.
Say that one more time, please.
I wanted to say that it's in synchronicity of the United States Constitution. So, under my understanding of what I want to say is that it is the United States of America who Noble Jolly was giving reference to.
All right. So United States of America is what he said. That's what you're rolling with, right?
Yes, sir.
All right. Islam. Islam, Noble.
Yeah, kind of in left field with this answer, but I think it's kind of giving reference to the fact that if we, Moorish Americans, we proclaim our nationality, it puts us in the line of citizenship, which also puts us in the line with the Constitution applying to us, with an exception of the 14th Amendment. So we are actually a part of that because we are no longer considered slaves. So I'm thinking that we're part and parcel to the government based on the fact that we proclaim and we actually can be genuine citizens instead of the citizens that were granted citizenship based on the 14th Amendment, which is a promise, of fortune and gold, which really never comes about.
Correct. All right, Islam. I'll go with that. And again, what everybody said is actually truth. It's all portions of one big concept we're gonna come up with. Now, you had something else you want to share?
I wanted to share something with one of the live members online right now. This is brother Kevin McKenzie Bay. He said we're part and parcel of the U.S. government, and it's the said government because the Moorish governance and the United States government is occupying the same land.
Islam. And who is that?
Brother Kevin McKenzie Bay.
Brother Mackenzie Bay, Islam to you, and thank you for that input. So what I want to explain now is I'm going to take what everybody said and put it together. By being Moorish American, you are a part and parcel of the government. is Act 4, not said government. Because two people said said government. We don't get to said government until we get to Act 6. All right? And there's a reason for that. This is the first time he mentioned the government. So Act 4 is the government. It's only said government in Act 6. It's talking about the same government. Said means before mentioned. So in Act 6, when he says this said government, what he's really saying is the government that I've mentioned in previous writing or previous text or before now. So Act 6 government is the same as Act 4 government. It's the same exact government, just to clear that up. All right, Islam, let's speed up a little bit. Part and parcel. What's the definition? Islam, Brother Omar.
Part meaning pertaining to and parcel meaning belonging to the land. Part and parcel meaning in Portuguese, but also pertaining physically to the land, i.e., Moorish American family name. Again, that's what parcel is pertaining to. In cahoots to the land, being attached to the land.
All right, Islam. Anyone else? Part and parcel. Yes, sir.
Part, part means of a whole, but not in whole. And parcel would be meaning pertaining to a portion of land, or it could be like a package or something like that.
All right, Islam. So here's the definition of part and parcel. An essential portion. That's exactly what it means. It's a phrase. So it's two words conjoined. Makes it a phrase.
Oh, wow.
For starters. Just understanding this again, because this is law, this is a legal argument, this is something that you, just like we're talking now, you might have to explain this one day. You might have to defend your birthright.
Islam.
Moorish American is your birthright. So we're talking about defending our birthright right now. This is part of defending it. So I'm only asking the question not to put anybody on the spot, but to share and to put us in a situation where we can challenge our mind to exercise what we know, so that we can learn from that experience so that we can eventually defend it. That's very important. So part and parcel, which is different from the word part and partial. All right. Part and parcel, which is what the original organic constitution stated before it was changed to part and partial.
That's right.
All right. Just to be clear on that. Part and parcel as a phrase means an essential portion. Essential. All right. So that's very important because we just threw some stuff out there and we thought it means, but now we need to know how it's used in law. So now let's replace the term part and parcel and put it back into Act 4. By being a Moorish American, you are an essential portion of the government.
Wow.
and must live the life accordingly. Because, now this is me saying this, because you are an essential portion of the government, because of that, you must live the life accordingly. It's mandatory. That's a mandate that you have to live according to this, because you're not just a portion of the government, you are an essential portion of it. So now you have to define essential to get a better understanding on what part and parcel really means. Don't assume anything. You have to, this is again, when you already have to know this, because you see, like I'm scrambling to look for words. I got this highlighted in this dictionary. This is the same dictionary. It wasn't highlighted over here. So I had trouble finding it over here. So I had to go here because I knew I already had it highlighted. But I already knew the answer. But I'm not just giving you something I'm trying to prove to you. You see what I'm saying? But if I'm in a situation where I don't have no books, I know how to demonstrate that. I already know the answer. But you have to eventually get to that point. I'm only proving this now because I have access to it. But in a situation where you don't have access, you have to say the right things, because that's how law works. You have to prove your point. You know, so if now somebody might can cross-examine me and say, well, where are you getting that from? What reference are you getting that from? And I'm gonna tell them a Webster unabridged dictionary, 20th century dictionary. So now they can go back and check that, because now if I'm lying, now that's used against me in a court of law now. And now that could be stricken from the record where they don't have to consider that definition. Now somebody else might come, a judge might get slick and go online and look up divine constitution and bylaws, because I gave that reference too. They might come up with, oh, well, it says part and partial. It doesn't even say part and parcel. So now you also got to tell them that that's been changed and give them another reference to when it said part and parcel that predated when it said part and partial, because they might be trying to take the position of you know, trying to screw you, which they are going to take that position. But now they might already know this, and they might be prepared, and they might know more about this than you do.
That's right.
And then now and law goes by this: who can produce a superior argument? It's not about right or wrong. Law doesn't work that way. It's who can produce the superior claim. And if even though it's wrong, if someone can come and say, well, it's part and partial and it's this and that, and it doesn't mean you're an essential portion, it means you're a subordinate portion. And that will go into the definition you gave, because now part and partial is actually a 14th Amendment status.
Wow.
Yes, it is.
So part and partial means, it doesn't mean that, not the definition means, but it indicates that you are a subordinate portion. It's the opposite. So therefore you're a smaller portion, or a smaller percentage portion of the average or the other citizens, which I said puts you in a 14th Amendment status, because that's what invited you to participate into U.S. citizenship, is part and partial. So the 14th Amendment, which is referred to as a nickname, the 3/5 clause.
That's right.
Because it represents a person, artificial person, or an individual being 3/5 of a person. Means that you're not whole.
Right.
Which means that you're an artificial entity created by legislation.
That's right. Not essential.
So that's opposite from being an essential portion.
That's right. Totally.
Or individual. One is saying you're a natural person, the other one saying you're artificial. Yes, sir.
Islam, Grand Sheikh, you on point. And when you said what you just said, it reminded me of the divine warning by the prophet when he was mentioning that, and I, the prophet, do here believe that this administration of the government being more wisely prepared by more genius citizens
Mm-hmm.
So he's speaking about that essential portion of the government,
Mm-hmm.
which is considered to be the majority
Mm-hmm.
and not the minority.
That's
And
correct.
then he continues saying that by these genius citizens believe in their free national constitution,
Mhm.
which is what you just read from, which is Act 4,
Mhm.
dealing with the free national constitution. And he
Mhm.
said, and I, the prophet, truly believe that my people will find a true and divine way of their forefathers
Mhm.
and learn to stop serving carnal customs
Mhm.
and merely ideas of man. Remember, you just said they created by the legislature.
Mm-hmm.
And they calling themselves Negro, black, and colored, makes them less than what they are, and have done so,
Sheikahs.
and have not done them any
Give
good,
me a
but
highlighter,
have
please.
always caused them harm.
Thank you. Islam.
So that
I'm drawing with you. Thank you.
that them taking away from them being an essential portion of this government,
Mhm.
it makes them non-descendable,
Mhm.
and not only that, it puts them in a category to make them less of a portion, which makes them minorities. And it's not dealing with the numbers, it's
Mhm.
dealing with the consciousness of
Yes.
how you perceive yourself.
Absolutely.
Your free national standards.
Mm-hmm. That
Islam.
makes a man and a nation.
Islam.
Islam, brother. Islam. Go ahead. Listen up, Morris, because that was the next thing I was going at.
Essential. This is from the Oxford Dictionary.
Mm-hmm.
An adjective. Absolutely necessary.
Mm.
Extremely important.
Mm.
Then it has similar. Crucial, necessary, and key.
Mm.
That's an adjective. And now they have as a noun a thing that is absolutely necessary.
That's
right. And then they have necessity.
So according to that, Oxford is a very good dictionary, just for starters. But based off that definition, Moorish American is key
Islam.
and necessary to constitute the government.
Absolutely.
And we're talking about the United States of America government. So the United States of America government technically can't exist without Moorish American.
Islam.
Right.
So now let's go a step further. Islam, just hold that thought 1 second, because I'm going to complement this definition. I want to show you how this all links up. So I'm going to give you essential in my dictionary here, the unabridged. And remember, it says the essential portion, right, of the government. The essential portion of the government. I'm going to show you how sharp Drew Ali is. Essential is derived from a Latin term, and I'm going to mess the pronunciation of it up, but it's essentia, probably pronounced different, which means the essence.
You said it right.
Islam.
Listen to this, because you have to go back into the Latin translations of these words. Essential means essence.
That's what the brother just said, Mauricio. He said it means to live.
Islam.
You can't live without it.
Absolutely. So based off what I just said, the government can't exist without Moorish American because it's the essence of the government. That's why in the preamble, they stated in order to form a more perfect union. And then in the declaration, they said, we hold these truths to be self-evident. What truths? That means that something was already there and declared and set as a standard prior to the European declaring his freedom.
Absolutely.
So we got to understand that this is old law that we're talking about, old standards that was already evident. They was just saying that we hold these, they talking about themselves, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that every man was created equal and endowed by his creator. So that was already in place, which we already was teaching and saying and living. They just agreed to it. And let me go further, because I'm going to get to Brother Shakin in 1 second. So I just went into what the word essential means. This is the first definition that it gives now.
The essence.
Islam. Necessary to the constitution or existence of a thing. Again, essential. It's actually a law term.
Islam.
And again, the first definition it gives, it says necessary to the constitution or existence of a thing. Which means back to what I stated earlier. Part and parcel means essential portion. You are a part and parcel of the government. You break that all the way down to, it means you are the essence of the government, which means that it is the constitution of the government itself. You are the government. Back to the divine warning, Drew Ali expressed that repeatedly. But again, how many of us really caught on to that?
Wow.
To where he was really, really going with that.
Absolutely.
Brother Shakin.
Rising in praise to Allah, Holy Prophet Ali. Now she gets all those in attendance. Last week you said that you would have a hard time proving that you're not a U.S. citizen. This lesson here kind of does that.
All right.
I mean, it's like, because it goes past the U.S. citizenship to where it breaks it down even deeper to where you are, since you're part of the government, that excludes you to that status of a citizen.
Absolutely.
Even higher status. So that is the proof there. This lesson.
Absolutely. That's what I was trying to say last week. Is that when you really understand and overstand that concept, that artificial stuff don't apply to you. And when they know you know it, then they don't try to push that on you.
Islam.
See, you know the concept, they say, as a man thinketh, so shall he be. So this is what when you express something, what you're doing is expressing your reality. The perception of who you think you are. So when you speak and you declare yourself, whatever it is, you declare your language, your culture, you're telling it someone else, or the outward show, that this is who I am, or this who I think I am. And that's how they perceive it. And then you're classified according to that expression. That's what classification is really about. We give too much credit to people in what we call the government, and the institution of the government, and de facto government. We give too much credit to these things because they're illusions. And we give them so much power, unnecessary power, illusionary power, by saying they do this, they do that. No, they don't. We do that right here. And we need to understand that and reverse that polarity. They can't exist without your thoughts.
Islam.
And again, that goes back to the matrix. That is the matrix. You create this. You create government. You create heaven and hell. It's all here. It's how you think it.
Mere ideas of man.
So like I always say, there is no U.S. government. So the hard part is to realize why there's no U.S. government. It don't exist to me. It's not a reality. So I'm not caught up in trying to prove that I'm not a part of that. It don't exist for nobody. If I'm challenged on that, I'll prove it. It never existed. There is no U.S. government, and there's no U.S. Constitution. So it's not about me proving I'm not a part of it. It don't exist. I can't be a part of it because it don't exist. It's an illusion. That's law. Once you understand that and show them that, then the game is over from that side. Not saying that they don't try to push it, but meaning there is nowhere for it to go. because they're not a part of it and they can't represent something that don't exist. There's only one government. There's no this government and that government and this said government and the U.S. government. None of that exists. That's not what Act 4 is saying, and that's not what Act 6 is saying. There's only one government. It's not the Moorish government and their government. No, it's only one government. We need to reclaim and take back the government. And I'm not speaking from a radical perspective, meaning like Brother Nawiel stipulated, we need to perfect it by being wise. We're not trying to take over the government. So I'm not insinuating that either. But we need to protect it, preserve it, advance it, evolve it, is what I'm saying, so that everybody can live happily. That's what Drew Ali was demonstrating. Not no takeover stuff. Just make sure that we're clear on that. We're all part of this. We all have an obligation to protect and preserve it. Islam, sister. Peace.
I don't want to take away from your flow. I want to add to your flow in that regard. I found myself a necessary part of a court proceeding, the tribunal. I had to be in court with a group of people. I was, it was just a couple of days ago, and I was disappointed with how the group was taking things, and I realized that you're not declared. Yeah, and so I was just disturbed by it, and I woke up the next morning saying, you know what, I need to prepare the affidavit and make sure that my status is on the record, because however this court thing is going, and it's not going well, it doesn't allow me to really be part of who I am.
Understood.
It's kind of going along with it. So anyway, just to say that I did prepare the affidavit, I did give it to the judge, and immediately I put my status on the record, and not trying to make me separate from the group, but the group was going down a slippery slope, and I felt like, I know who I am, but I can't keep this thing. So I, in my statement, declaring my nationality on the record, X-Rail, and the name, the strong name that they actually had in the record. I also just indicated that I'm an actual person. Again, I'm new in regard to timeline, but it's my my belief of what my status is, and that's what I was saying. So I just want to make that point, is that I myself was in that situation right there in court, and I declared my nationality on the record to let them know that that my status, my standing is my status at law, and as far as I'm concerned, this case got to be dismissed because of this. And in fact,
because of what?
Well,
The affidavit.
Because of the points of the affidavit, and because the court had no jurisdiction, and they were pretending like they had jurisdiction, because those individuals were feeding that rhetoric to the judge, and I just wanted to make that clear about my status and what I felt like was accurate for them.
All right, Islam. Question to you: What is an affidavit?
It's your truth.
What do you mean by that? Explain it.
It's your firsthand knowledge of a situation, and you are not swearing to it, but you're affirming to that and putting it on the record.
Statement of facts.
That's what it was, a statement, because I knew of the entirety of the situation, which they did too, but they fed into it. And it was talking subject matter, but I was trying to pull away from subject matter to get to the point that the court don't have jurisdiction for this situation. We have our own constitution, we have our own bylaws for our organization. And so, as I said to the magistrate, if you're imposing your situation onto us, then basically we're no different than the plaintiff that has brought us into court.
All right, Islam.
Status and standing.
All right, very, very close. Just off topic. Let me explain this to you. Shati, do me a favor. Close that screen door there. Thank you. Affidavit is an affidavit. Is affirming. All right, that you are David. So now let me explain this to you. Let me explain this to you. Only because you was almost there. You're almost there. You are affirming that you are David. And who is David?
The beloved.
Understanding this. Where was Jesus born?
In the house of David.
So you got to understand these things, that you must be who you say you are. So the affidavit itself is tangible, it's artificial, but you're not. The affidavit is really you. So you have to express that you are who you say you are. Now, not playing a religious game again, but you have to show them that you're Jesus. Absolutely, which is not an individual. And David is not an individual. But you have to express that you are the law, because Jesus is the law. Jesus is the only one, not person, but anyone that can match that vibration is the only one that can have equal protection of law.
Islam.
Because Jesus means law.
Islamism.
So you have to show the court that you are ma'at, that you are balanced, that you are the law. Because Jesus means ma'at. So that has nothing to do with male or female or this religion or that religion. When you step before the court, they got the scales of Libra in the background, which represents Jesus. So you got to show them that you are the scales of justice. You got to show them that you are justice. And you do that by just being balanced, because Jesus just means balance. So you don't, like Jesus says, I didn't come to change the law. I came to do what? Fulfill the law. So that's how you have to come off to the world. That's why I said we're not trying to overthrow the government. We're trying to fulfill the government. We're just trying to preserve it, trying to bring it to a state of balancement, to a state of justice. That's the only thing we're doing. We have to be careful with words, because if you say something, even though the intent might be right, if you say the wrong thing, it could be taken in another direction. And that's what we don't want to do. Islam? Islam. So I want to get back to the word essential. Come back. So it says that necessary to the Constitution or existence of a thing. Then it says pertaining to the essence of an individual. Genus or class of objects as essential property and essential quality. So the word class is what I want to address. I pulled that out to address the class, right? So essential also goes into classification or class, because it will classify you. So with us being declared part and parcel of the government, what he did was classified us, which classification goes into status. So not only was the nation declared, but our individual status was also declared. So when the brother talked about the republic form of government and things of that nature, natural law goes into natural citizen. It's already declared. We have enough declaration in our words, in our terminology of our constitution, our nationality card, even our name, Moorish American, which is properly called free national name. It automatically declares the status of the nation and the participants or the individuals within the nation. Your status is already declared. You're already classified as what type of citizen you are. So back to what Shakim was just demonstrating, it already sets the stage of what type of citizen are you dealing with. The U.S., United States of America, United States Republic. All of these different phraseologies is not important and is not necessary to be argued or clarified when you have to do this, because you're only going to walk yourself into some semantic game that is not really necessary. It's already declared for you. You must declare your free national name to do what? To be recognized by this government and the nations of the earth. It's already declared. Your free national name already declared what type of citizen you are. It's in the name already. All we got to do is declare it and then just try to live according to it. It's already a motion thing that we just got to fall in line with. There's no semantic thing that we need to get with. Follow Drew Ali's terminology in this language and you'll be all right. When we try to go off the record and try to get into other stuff, now we walking ourselves into an unnecessary fight. Yes, sir.
Yeah, Grant, you asked you. I'm gonna go back a little bit.
Yes, sir.
You ask a question in reference to Act 4.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the prophet made it plain and clear that you must live the life accordingly, because you're part and parcel.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning, what you already brought full clarity, because by being a Moorish American, we predate the Constitution that they adopted.
Mm-hmm.
So therefore, being that we predated, we are already an essential part of
Correct.
all
Mm-hmm.
of the whole. You know, we're part and parcel. And he said he must live the life accordingly.
Mm-hmm.
Means that that even though it's flawed, do not disrespect it, because you have the remedies to fix it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it.
Islam. So class, I'm adding this now. Class of citizenship. Class of citizens. Now let's go to Drew Ali's divine warning, what he said. Now we already brought it up. We already spoke about it. What did you say earlier about that now, yeah? Class of citizens.
Yes, it was saying.
What did Drew Ali say about classes by this administration of government?
Yes.
Repeat that. What did you say? This is called cross-referencing now. So we got to, you put everything on the table and you cross-reference it.
Said the prophet, and I, the prophet, do here believe that this administration of the government being more wisely prepared.
And I got to stop you there for 1 second. There's Jews in that statement. Listen to his wording. The prophet Noble Drew Ali is a sorcerer. He's a good sorcerer. Islam. So you got to understand that he's spelling us. He said he believes that what? This administration? He said he believes that this administration of government. Now my question is, what government is he talking about?
He's talking about the Moorish American.
The Moorish American government?
No, just the Moorish American citizens.
But he said that this administration of government. He didn't talk about any people or any nationality. What government is he speaking about?
Legislation.
What government is he speaking about? Yes, but what is the name? What government is he speaking about? I didn't hear it yet. Fine, go. You got your hand up and you can jump right in. Yes. What?
The administration.
He said he believes that this administration of the government. What government is he talking about?
He said this administration. So he meaning the original way he left it.
No, what's the name? What government is he talking about?
Congress.
No, but that's not the. What is the name of the government?
United States.
No, that's not the name. United States is not a name of a government. How many governments is in the United States? No, that's not true.
He's talking about the Moorish Divine and National.
No, what is the name of the government? He said this administration of government. What government is he talking about? There's got to be of what? of the United States of America. That's the name of the government. Yeah, but again, you don't want to, you got to be clear on this. Like, it's got to roll.
United States of America.
Yes, but United States of America is the government. We can't keep changing it and dividing the government. It's one government. Drew Ali came to perfect one government. So continue. I believe that this administration of government,
Being more wisely prepared by more genius citizens.
all right, listen to this. He said, by what? More genius citizens. Go back to the definition over here in the Unabridged Dictionary. The word essential, still in that word. A genius or a class of objects. Genius, gene, the word gene, right? This gene, wisely prepared by more genius citizens. He's talking about a class. That creates a class. The Moorish Americans is the class now. That is the class. So what he's saying that he's raising the class or classification. The Moorish Americans, which becomes the class, that becomes the gene. Classification of the citizen, which is us. The essential part is the classification of the government. You are the only true American citizen of the United States of America.
Islam.
You're the only one.
Islamism.
Definition also said that key. I think Flying Go read it earlier. Essential means key. You're the key, essential part of this government. You're key. So then it go back into another paragraph of the Prophet Noble Drew Ali's lessons where he spoke about the key. What did he say about the key? The key to civilization is where? What's the exact wording though? It was and it is in the hands. Nation of where?
Of America.
North America. Which is here. Right? Geographically speaking right now. Here. Which we call Al-Maghrib. Means the furthest west. So not just northwestern Mexum, but the furthest portion of northwestern Mexum, which is North America. So be careful. You don't just say north of Mexum or northwestern Mexum, because you'll be on the side of this side. You'll be on the east part of the pond. You know, other side of the Atlantic.
Islam.
You'll be in corrupt terminology. You'll be an East Indian. So a West Indian, which they call Jamaicans, is really maroon or Maroon, which is Moor or Moroccan.
Islam.
So the Moors are the true Rastafarians.
Islam.
Because we are of Judah.
Islam.
In the house of
David.
David. Islam.
Islam.
I got a question from a
Yes,
brother
sir.
online.
Mm-hmm.
This is brother Kuka Manazara L. He said, "Is there a place where we hold our own accountable court, or otherwise like the Vatican? Does we with the cardinals and the bishop when we have legal happenings. And he was just basically talking about court.
All right, Islam. So the brother's asking is, do we have our own court, separate court?
Yes.
All right, Islam. We should have a separate court. However, some Moors might have activated that, but it's not a nationally standard recognized Moorish court. So each temple, which is its own regency, should have their own domestic court.
Islam.
However, if we were intact as a unified body of Moors with one grand body in Supreme Council, like the Prophet set it up. At one time they did. That was the Supreme Council. And then the grand body was the representatives, the grand sheiks from every temple throughout the nation came together and sat on a panel. And that's referred to as the grand body. Within the grand body, you have a Supreme Council, just like the Supreme Court. There's one Supreme Court of the United States of America, i.e., there's one Supreme Court of the Moorish Science Temple referred to as the Supreme Council. However, that's how the Prophet set it up. However, because of the splits that we spoke about a few weeks ago, it created the offshoots and created several different bodies and several different courts. So that's not observed as one unit now, and this is why the government and the governments of the world is not going to recognize any court we talk about, because they know that we're still not following the national standard that was laid down by the Prophet. So yes, it was set up. He gave us the formula to it, but it has not been preserved like Act 4 says. It has not been preserved that way. So therefore, it's something that we have to rebuild and reestablish.
Islam.
Hope that answers the question, brother. And without going too far in it, because we don't want the adversaries to have too much understanding of that, we just have to leave it at that.
Brother said Islam.
Islam to you, brother. Islam. What's the time?
It's 3:20.
Islam. So, and also to further that drawing on class and even the court, I want to address what some Moors refer to as the A1. Some Moors know it as Truth A1, which represents a classification of laws. That it is not a Moorish American number, and it's not a Moorish American law directly.
Is it a classification?
No, A1 is a classification of United States laws.
Yes, sir. Article 1.
Okay. So it's a federal law and it becomes an international law, whereas the classification of nations, more than one nation that might have a controversy at law, it comes under the classification of the A1. So multiple nations use it. Multiple nationalities use that. So it's not directly pertaining to the Moors directly. And it doesn't mention Moor. It's just a classification of laws that has to be invoked when there's a controversy between members or between citizens of different nations. Classification A1 sets the standard or the rules or regulations on how those individuals are to be judged, brought to law, how the dispute is resolved, etc. So it just invokes a certain jurisdiction. It's the only thing that does. But it does deal with classification. That's why I want to speak on that. Because the brother asks about, do we have our own court? And that's where you can invoke a A1 jurisdiction if you do have your own court and you have a controversy or dispute against you, where you can invoke the A1 hearing. That's one example.
Diversity of citizenship.
This what diplomats also invoke, or consulars invoke, when the consul represents the nation or the members, or i.e. the citizens of their nation that they represent. So i.e. a consul or consulate from another nation might be stationed here in the United States of America to represent their own members or their own citizens of their nation across seas. And whenever there's a controversy with their members here, then they can invoke that A1 hearing. That's what that is for. So it's for mainly used for consuls and diplomats because they represent nations or different nationalities. But it's not a domestically invoked jurisdiction for members that share the same nationality over here. So be careful on your use of that and your understanding of that. So A1 is only for certain purposes. And we don't hold a status of diplomatic immunity, although from an etymology perspective, or you want to get into what diplomat means, we are diplomats in nature, but the term diplomatic immunity is a term that was coined and holds a definition that invokes foreign status. So you better be careful with that too, because we're not foreigners. And diplomatic immunity, if you use that term, could invoke that jurisdiction or invoke that classification of you being a foreigner. So understand, we are diplomats by inheritance, I say. But we don't hold a status of diplomatic immunity. It's two different things. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I was going to ask the question. Where is that A1? What court is that A1 used in? Is it like in a world court or a Supreme Court?
Supreme Court first.
Supreme Court first.
But it invokes a section of federal law or the Supreme Court where matters are heard with certain parties in it. So it's not a separate court. It's just it invokes the jurisdiction or the venue on how this court is to operate and who has the authority and who does not have the authority. You have to invoke jurisdiction for a court to even hear the matter. So it's not a separate court, like a separate building and a separate courtroom that you go to just says A1 on it. That's not what that means. It's just that that court is invoked by that A1 status. So that sets the stage of the rules and regulations and the language of what is discussed and how is discussed in this particular courtroom.
So then, Branch, would it be safe to say then that in the Supreme Court at given times, it can be acting on the A1 while at other times it's doing regular Supreme Court issues?
No, it's no different from if they got a courtroom. Courtroom might be neutral. According to who comes in that courtroom that day and invoke a certain hearing or setup determines what laws is being dealt with in that courtroom. So I just don't want more to think it's a separate courtroom or a certain building that only deals with that. Is how that's invoked. And that's no different from a lower courtroom that might open up on different subject matters and invoke different jurisdictions on any given day. Anytime you go into a courtroom, you should know what is invoked that day. What am I here on? What jurisdiction is this court operating under? That's something that we have to know. Every citizen should know when they go into any courtroom, knowing what jurisdiction is this courtroom operating under. So that sets the stage on the rules and regulations of what's being dealt with. And also knowing the separations of power. Article 1 sets the stage of that. Article 1 of the Constitution. Congress is the one who sets up the courts. And they also has the authority to set up what they call inferior courts from time to time. The inferior courts are not courts. For example, an inferior court is not municipal court or traffic court. Congress don't have authority to set that up, and they don't. That's private. De facto court sets that up. But that's not an inferior court. An inferior court is a federal court, district court of the United States. Those are inferior courts to the Supreme Courts. That means that they're extending their jurisdiction to function on the authority on their behalf. But it's still organic and lawful if it's an inferior court. If it doesn't vibe or if it's not compatible to the Constitution of the United States, then it's not inferior court. It's an unconstitutional court at that point. And we have to know the difference. So the Constitution of the United States don't support many type of courtrooms out there. So they can't refer to that as a United States courtroom, and you shouldn't either. And when they refer to that, that's when you have to know the law to check them on that, because it's a United States courtroom. It has to be ordained by Congress. If it wasn't, it's not a constitutional courtroom. So you go into Article 6 of the United States of America's Constitution that will explain that. Yes, sir, Brother Shakin.
So that's the reason why, so that's the reason why usually when you have, or should I say, you've been harmed in these lower courts, you have to have it removed to federal court.
Yes.
In order to receive remedy.
Yes.
Islam. The brother Munazara L wanted to know what's the pros and cons of a Moorish American pursuing a law degree.
Pros and cons. Well, the pro is we should, it's a good measure to obtain a law degree because it gets you more informed on how the government operates. Even if you're just doing it just for self-preservation, there's no harm to that. And if you're doing it to become to represent others, is good too, because we need more Moors that are learned in the law, because procedure is everything. It's not about how you feel or what's right and wrong. The outcome is always based off the procedure. And unfortunately, you really have to learn it. Like Drew Ali said, get a good European education, and then I could use you. So the education is learning the procedure on how things work. The Prophet and the Moors in general had an attorney, if you will use that term, and when the Prophet was informed, and that was Payne L.
Right, Payne L.
Payne L was the representative or the attorney or the lawyer for not just the Moorish Science Temple, but also personally for the Prophet Noble Drew Ali. So he had a personal attorney with someone that was learned in how the system works and were able to do things in court that just a normal individual wouldn't know how to do certain things because they wasn't taught that way. So it's very important that we do need people to learn that aspect of the game, because a lot of us lose because we didn't know the procedure. We can't just say, well, Constitution says this, so you can't do that. Even though the Constitution, you're correct, Constitution does say that, but that's just not how a court hears something. So when they say you're not competent to stand trial, you're not competent in this courtroom, what they're really saying is you don't know the law, and you don't know the procedure of the law. And procedures is what wins court cases. The cons of it is, in order to represent someone in court, in this system, they make you pass the bar association. And that's the only downfall of the situation, where you have to become a member of the Barristers of England.
That's right. England.
Now, there's again, that doesn't mean don't do it. It just means that you got to be conscious that that's what you're agreeing to. You can do it with a reservation of rights, and we should. You know, we do. It don't mean everybody needs to do it, but if we had a couple of good Moorish attorneys, then we'd be all right. That knew the system, because it don't mean that they, you know, they just have to go into it with a mindset that they're going to be on the side of justice, not to go and become a part of the good boy network and not offend the system, because, you know, that's a thin line right there. But, you know, you got a lot of quote unquote civil rights attorneys, people like that only do things and only take cases to represent their people. They're not concerned with the barristers and what they might want them to do. They only take certain cases. You don't have to take every case. And I'm gonna give you an example of that. It was a movie on that with
Denzel Washington.
yeah, Denzel Washington. What was the name of that?
It was called Remain Israel or something.
Yes, Roman Israel, something like that. That wasn't the name of it though, was it?
Yeah, it was.
All right, Roman Israel was
Ali was in there.
absolutely. So that was the name of the movie, and he played an attorney who was a bar member that only took cases that dealt with inmates that was incarcerated, and not necessarily unjustly, even if they did do something wrong. But he only took those cases where he wanted to do what the other network of people wasn't going to do. You know, make sure that at least that individual got a just hearing. You know, and that really is a new wave right now, where you got some entertainers and celebrities that's really on this path too. Like Beyonce is one of them. Not bar members, but what they're doing is they're funding a network of bar members to take certain cases and go after inmates that got excessive jail time and false imprisonment. Right. They're going after those type of cases, and they're funding people that won't necessarily take those cases, and they're putting funds into a network of attorneys who is willing to go deal with those type of cases. So that's kind of like a trend where certain entertainers are actually jumping on that. So we give honor to them for even looking into that matter. So you got people working, you know, working in the dark on certain things, which is good.
Behind the scenes, yes.
Behind the scenes or whatever, you know, people working in different ways. You know, so back to the brother's question, there is pros and cons, and hopefully I gave you, there's more of them, but can't get into all of them right now. But on, you know, paralegals is another thing. Even if you take a paralegal course, just to be educated on how to file motions and affidavits, that's important. Because a lot of Moors flood the court with documents and stuff and just don't know the procedure. And again, I talked about that last week. It creates issues where they now can turn around and pass certain memos and stuff where now they block you from even filing stuff because it was done improper, so to speak. And it doesn't get across the way it should be. A lot of good Moorish cases have been thrown out, and most of it because of the procedure. You know, so at least those who are filing the motions and the affidavits and the documents, at least if it was done with somebody that had at a minimum a paralegal degree, would be a lot better. Even if a member of each temple went and took a paralegal course, at a minimum, you set somebody up in the temple there, and everybody get together and fund that individual to go to school and get a certain background so that they can be at least a representative of the temple. That's a start.
It's a good start.
Very good start.
Yes, it is.
You know, you take a certain percentage of the funds of the temple, and you fund an individual to go take a course. You know, that you got to start like that. And then if they want to pursue it, like he's saying, if they even want to go all the way with it, you fund that individual to go all the way with it. You know, so these are just some things I'm putting out that could be talked about in the future. Islam. But the temple has not been rolling like that, you know, like across the board for many different decades. And the formula is there. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. The formula has already been laid down. The prophet said, I gave you what it takes to save the nation. Just take it and go save yourself. A lot of us don't even know the formula because a lot of the leaders have not been sharing the formula.
No.
You know, and again, that goes back into COINTELPRO actions, different reasons. But a lot of more is create different auxiliaries, different groups, even stuff that's out there now, like the consulate and different things is being created. And it's really because the formula that Drew Ali laid down, people don't know the formula to it. So now it causes an individual to recognize that there is a lack of things that needs to be done. So they think that they got to go recreate something because they think it was never created. And it's just really ignorant to the laws and ignorant to the program that Drew Ali set a lot of this up, and it's just not being administered to. So really the remedy for the nation is just to put back together what Drew Ali left off, or what he put together. And it takes, again, back to this administration of government.
The brother said he has a criminal justice degree and a paralegal degree, to let y'all know. And you want to be a temple member.
Islam. So, and again, so we can start the communication on that. Just stay in communication with us, and Brother Nawi, if you can exchange communication and just pursue that, you know, with the sisters, just pursue that communication. Islam. Very helpful, and thank you, brother. Islam. I know we're coming to the closing here. Was there any other questions, clarity on today's lesson specifically? Did everybody get a good understanding, get any additional clarity than what they came here with? Hopefully it did some justice. Islam.
Great meeting.
It was awesome.
And essential also keeps on Islam, Brother Mark.
And clarity, so I just want to ask you just to make sure I have clarity.
Yes.
We are essential parts of this here government, meaning the essential, we are a very important piece of this government due to the fact of our I'm just give me 1 second. I'm just trying to formulate it, you know, structure of certain.
Yes.
Just we are an essential part of this government, being that our ancestors set it up in such a way that if we acknowledge who we are and ourselves,
yes,
and the lessons that they put out, if we adhere to that. Wait, I'm sorry. Give me a second. Let me gather my
absolutely.
thoughts. I'll come back.
Absolutely. And I'm glad you even brought that to my attention. Thank you.
Because I wanted to mention just the essential piece, because that I feel like that was important that you stress that, the essential part, because it's a very important part of the body.
Correct.
That has to be, you know, acknowledged.
And let me say this. We still have not even explained the full scope of how we are an essential portion. And it needs to be explained. So that could be the start of next week's lesson, is how are we an essential portion of the government? How did we become part and parcel to the government? Because that's next. And I think that's where your question is also going to. Understanding that. Because that's very, very important. Not that, because the lesson tells us, the Quran tells us, the man knows not by being told, right? So we're not an essential portion because Drew Ali says so. You're not an essential portion because I said so. So we need to know how we are an essential portion, and we must be that which we know. Act 4 says we must be an essential portion. But we got to know it to be it, according to the Quran. That's what the Quran teaches us now, how to become one with things, the process, from a spiritual and also from a civic perspective. So those are the things that we can start off with as having a thesis on how do we unfold into being, well, I don't necessarily say how do we unfold into being a central portion, but from elementary perspective, we need to know how did we enter this government and become an essential portion, because that's a process that is very hard to explain. And earlier, when Delimu was talking about that, or he hit on it a little bit with the 14th Amendment, because the 14th Amendment going to say, well, you're not a essential portion. You're a privileged citizen. You was entered into this in 1865. So how can you be essential? This is the advocate. This is what that magistrate might say to you. Like, you black. Black is not an essential portion of this government. And in fact, black is not even a part of this government. That's me saying that. That's where Act 6 come in, and that's also where Dred Scott come in at.
Exactly.
We got to understand that whole ball game, because you just repeat this conversation, you might be in for a long haul. And if you don't understand this, you really might be in for a long haul and a long sentence. So you gotta be careful.
I could just add on to that portion.
Yes.
You mentioned about the essential, where the Quran teaches us that the actions of the soul is what when we think, will, and reasoning. And he said, call these not the soul. They are its action, which is the mind, but it's not its essence. So the government is being ran by people that are just given the actions of the government, but really the essence of the government relies on true nobility. So whoever has those true noble titles, the elders, those are the essential parts.
Exactly.
Remember this too. Divine warning is the pivot that we keep going back to.
It is.
And within that state, in that document, the Noble Drew Ali mentioned that the United States of America is one of the most prosperous governments of the world.
Islam.
One of the most prosperous governments of the world. He said, but if the above statements is not carried out by my people and the citizens, he said, the worst is yet to come. That should resonate with us. And I'm just confirming the Act 4, the Act 5, and the Act 6, the government portion, the one government. He also said that the United States Constitution is the greatest document of all times. So again, this is Professor Drew making these statements. If that's the case, then that means he's looking at something that we're not looking at. So we can't, how people talk, well, that Constitution has nothing to do with us. That's how some people talk. How we discredit certain things, Drew Ali saying is the greatest document of all times. So if something is the greatest document of all times and you're not a party to it, then you're in bad shape. To even make that statement that it has nothing to do with us, what does that say? That means somebody is not on the same page. So I don't want us to discredit and I'm not talking to just anybody here, but just out there, period. We do not want to discredit what Drew Ali laid down or what he laid down as a law, because within it lies the treasures. He said, this is the only sole foundation for the Asiatics. The only one. And if he said, you got to believe, and if you believe the prophet program is right, then you don't look elsewhere. You don't challenge what he laid down. Soon as you challenge it, and if you got doubt, you're in bad shape. The Quran says doubt must see their God. And just listen, and that's not me talking. This is straight from the Quran. Doubt must see their God. If you got, and he even said, if you doubt I the prophet and my redemption process was right for my people, then do what? Go to those that know law. He said, if you doubt his process was right for his people, then you need to go to those who know the law. Go to City Hall and amongst the officials in your government and ask them under an intelligent tone, and they will be glad to give you a favorable reply, because they are glad to see me bring you out of darkness into the light. And that's Noble Drew Ali speaking. That's the voice of the prophet. So don't doubt the process. You might not understand it, and that's normal. It's a normal response to this, especially if you're just coming in. You're going to read something, you might not agree with it. But don't doubt it. Investigate it. Check it out before you doubt it, and don't publicly doubt it. Even if you disagree with something, don't keep it to yourself. Don't say that out loud, because you'll get classified. And people will judge you based off that statement. And if you go to court disagreeing with something Drew Ali said, then that can work against your whole declaration. And that's what people do when they start changing the documents, changing the nationality card, changing the literature, changing it to partial, and just changing it, saying we're not a United States of America citizen, we're this, we're that. That means that they doubt the prophet. It's clear. So just understand what you're dealing with. And that memo, watch your enemies, dear Moors. Your enemies are the ones that speak against your temple and your prophet. You gotta listen to the voice. You only gonna, he not putting no names to it, but you know that by knowing the voice.
Exactly.
You got to know the voice of your prophet. So if you doubt it, don't publicly declare that. Investigate it. Hold that to yourself until you're able to prove that he's wrong. If you're able to prove that, then we're open to hear that. But if you can't prove it, don't have an outward show that you disagree with the prophet. Because if you disagree with the prophet, you technically disagreeing with your nationality. And now that puts you at variance with your own declaration, which puts you up for cross-examination in a court of law, which is called perjury and fraud. And you don't want to get caught into that.
And to this day, no one has proven him wrong.
And that's just dealing with the courts of men. You definitely don't want to be perjurized on a divine level, because we didn't talk about that. That's worse. But we a lot of us do that just by not understanding, not no foul intended. We just, by not knowing certain things, we make statements that we're not aware of. And we dishonor our mothers and fathers just because we maybe don't know certain things. Islam? So that's going to end today's lesson. Islam, I'm going to turn it over to Brother Omari for the reading of the additional laws. Did the sisters do collection? Yes. All right, Islam. Islam, please give them your undivided attention, Morris.
Islam.
Islam.
Additional laws for the Moorish Americans by the Prophet Noble Drew Ali. Act 1. Grand sheikhs and governors and heads of all temples, all businesses. Each said temple must be approved by the Prophet Noble Drew Ali. Before acting upon any members, let it be finance, property, or any line of life that will cause the members to sacrifice, finance, etc. That will cause the support of any group of members. Any former officer that violates these laws is subject to be removed from his or her office under heavy restrictions, etc. by the Prophet or the Grand Sheikh. Act 2. All members are to attend their adat meetings and their public meetings promptly. If a member is found standing around on their meeting period, they shall be fined 50 cents on the first case, and on the second will be fined 1 note, which will go into your emergency fund. If a member is working, he or she monthly dues must be paid, and if he or she has money in the bank, he or she must subscribe for as much as he or she is able to the Moorish American Uplifting Fund, because it takes finance to uplift the nation. Act 3. It is the lawful and divine duty of every good member, if he or she is able in finance, to aid me in saving the nation. And if he or she does not, they are enemy to the cause of uplifting their own people, and justice must catch you. Let it be he or she according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, as I have the power invested in my hands, and I will have to inform the nation. Act 4. All members, while up making a public speech, must not use any agitation against the American flag or speak radical against the church or any member of any organized group, because we are here to teach love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Act 5. All members must promptly attend their meetings and send their children to Sunday school, and the teacher must conform him or herself to the questionnaire, and let every member exercise his or her 5 senses who was able to do so, because out of your Sunday school comes guiders of the nation. Act 6. With us, all members must proclaim their nationality, and we are teaching our people their nationality and their divine creed, that they may know that they are part and parcel of this said government, and know that they are not Negroes, colored folks, black people, or Ethiopians, because these names were given to slaves by slaveholders in 1779 and lasted until 1865 during the time of slavery. But this is a new era of time now, and all men now must proclaim their free national name to be recognized by the government in which they live and the nations of the earth. This is the reason why Allah, the great God of the universe, ordained Noble Drew Ali, the prophet, to redeem his people from their sinful ways. The Moorish Americans are the descendants of the ancient Moabites who inhabited the northwestern and southwestern shores of Africa. Act 7. All members must promptly attend their meetings and become a part and parcel of all uplifting acts of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Members must pay their dues and keep in line with all necessities of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Then you are entitled to the name faithful. Husband, you must support your wife and children. Wife, you must obey your husband and take care of your children and look after the duties of your household. Sons and daughters must obey father and mother and be industrious and become a part of the uplifting of fallen humanity. All Moorish Americans must keep their heart and minds pure with love and their bodies clean with water. This divine covenant is from your holy prophet, Noble Drew Ali, through the guidance of his father, God Allah. Islam. Now I ask for all members to rise and face the east for the closing prayer. Feet at a 45-degree angle. 5 fingers up on the left, 2 on the right. Repeat after Sister Farasha. Bind our hearts and minds back to our ancient forefathers, divine creed and principles. And this we ask in thy holy name, and the 7 Elohims. Amen. Islam. The meeting is now officially closed, Moors. Peace, Moors.